Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a light coloured pencil. This is a H pencil. If you've got a HB pencil, that would be perfect. And the first thing you're going to do for your first piece of homework is you're going to draw the basic outline shape of these 3D forms. And the best way to do it, you've got your grid here. So basically what you do is you look at each individual square and you draw the lines of those shapes in that individual square. So I'm going to start off on the top left hand side here, and I'm going to work my way down and see what I can draw. So in this first square here, I've got nothing. In the second square, I've got the side of the cone. It comes down at an angle, but it doesn't go quite halfway across, but it goes through that cross between these four here, these four squares. So drawing lightly, as I always do, to start off with. So I've got that one there. Then it comes down to a wee bit of the next square there, and then it stops. Then I'm going to finish the rest of the cone, which goes through that corner and then up. It doesn't go quite high up into that square. Then it comes down here, it comes down that one, and then tiny bit into that tiny square there, and a wee bit out here as well. Then I draw the curve or the ellipse for the bottom of the cone. And I'm seeing how far down that comes, and actually I've probably made that a wee bit too far down, so I'm going to bring it back up again. I'm going to draw the curve, it goes round and a wee bit into that box there, just a wee bit. So this is helping you get the size, the proportion, the scale of your objects as accurate as possible. So this is why it's useful to use the grid. Now, in your homeworks, you can use the grid if you want to. If you've got confidence that you don't need the grid, then you can use a sheet of white paper. It's entirely up to you. It might be that you actually start with the grids and you do the grids for a few homeworks, and then you ditch the grids and you do your own drawings. You do your drawings on white sheets of paper. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you are ready for is important. So then I've got a wee side bit here, and then that comes out into this other box here. It comes down just into a tiny touch into that one. Then I've got this side here, this straight side. So what you're looking at is trying to make sure that you are as accurate as possible every few minutes, looking at the grids and looking at how much of the object is taken up in that particular grid, and taking your time and looking at the angles of your lines as well, particularly in this activity where we've got 3D forms sitting on top of one another. So that's me drawing out the basic outline shape. What I'm now going to do is start adding the tone and the shading. Now, if all you have is a HB pencil, then to create a lighter tone, you use the side of your pencil and you lean lightly. To create a darker tone, you lean on your pencil and make it heavier to get your darker tone, and obviously you want to try and blend as much as you can. If you're lucky enough, a H pencil is a lighter tone, that's a light tone. If you've got a 2B pencil, that's a darker tone. Now, you can still get a range of tone within your 2B. See, that's me leaning lightly, but then if I lean really heavily, I can also get a darker tone as well. So that's a 2B, which is darker. And then if you're lucky enough to have a really dark pencil, this is a 6B, and it's a very soft pencil, so it's really dark. Your H is light, and it's a hard pencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my lighter tones. Always start off with your lighter tones and gradually build up. You want to vary from dark to light, but when you're moving from your darker to your lighter tones, you want to try to get your blending in the same way you did with task 1 when you were doing your bars of tonal grids. So looking at my object here, I can see that it's lighter here. It gets a wee bit darker here, but then it gets much, much darker there, and then it starts to get a wee bit lighter, but it doesn't ever go back to just white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my shading a wee bit in here where it's the lighter tone there. So I'm going to start that using the side of my pencil, because that's important. That way you get your tones to blend. And I'm going to shade all of this area in because this right hand side of the cone is darker. But then I'll gradually build in my other 2B pencil, my other 2B and 6B pencil to make my tones darker. And I'll also lean more heavily as well in my pencil. Now, as much as I possibly can, I'm going to try and keep the pencil going in the same direction. Obviously at the bottom I couldn't do that, but for the rest of the cone I'm trying to keep it in the same direction. Now it's a bit darker down here, so with my H pencil I'm going to start leaning a wee bit more heavily, and that only makes it so dark. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my 2B pencil, and I can see that dark tone here. So I'm going to start lightly, and then gradually build it up to be a bit heavier when you want to get it darker. And again, I'm trying to make sure when I'm using the side of my pencil that my tones are blending. You want your tones to blend as much as you possibly can. A seamless transition from darker to lighter. Trying as best you can to keep your tones and shades going in the same direction as much as you can. Here is when you're doing your tone and shading, you're using tone to define shape. So you're not drawing harsh lines for your 3D objects, you're using the tone and the shading to create the shape of the object rather than drawing your shapes with a harsh outline. It's the tone that defines shape. Right, good luck with your drawing.